Hi, my name's Sean. That's my friend Chris Ford, aka The Objective Geek. And I realized I didn't maximize my slideshow screen. My bad. Welcome to Avatar The Last Podcaster. Today we're doing a special one-off episode as sort of a thank you to two of our listeners. Back in November, I had a fundraiser that I would say was wildly successful. It was really cool. And two of our
Very
listeners,
successful. You should be proud of yourself.
I am. That was a tremendous birthday.
I'm proud
And
of you.
oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It was honestly one of the most memorable birthdays I've ever had. It was really cool. But what's really cooler is that two of our listeners that we interact with, I would say semi regularly, actually donated money. So two humans. I have no idea who they are, other than that I talk to them occasionally on Instagram and Facebook, and they seem to be interested in our podcast. Gave money for no reason whatsoever, other than the goodness of their hearts, and we really appreciated that. So as a small thank you, we decided to take two topics that they submitted and use those topics for today's discussion. I always feel like unoriginal or disingenuous saying this because we record back to back, and I assume that you haven't changed much in the past hour and a half. But Chris, how are you doing?
um, I feel like I may be sleep deprived tonight. I'm not sure. The last podcast we had to cut. We didn't have to cut. We just had to take a pause. I had to take care of my son, who likes to cry about every 3 hours a night, even though he's like 8 months old and he should have grown out of that a long time ago.
You
But
just dress him up like a little sky bison or something and sit him on your lap during the podcast so we don't get called out by YouTube for having kids on the podcast. Like, no, it's my sky bison. Don't worry about it. There's got to be a little sky bison onesie out there somewhere. I'm going to find it.
I looked when my kids dressed up
Oh.
as Aang and Korra.
Uh, well,
Wait a
this
minute. No, no, that was last year. But I have looked before. But not
to see
anyway.
if there's
Whatever.
sky bison.
Catching
My
myself on
wife,
a lie. Like we didn't have Halloween this year.
you're pretty crafty. My wife is pretty crafty. We can make it happen. We can have a little sky bison or a little naga or whatever. I don't want to. I don't want to
I'm
limit.
crafty in the worst ways. I'm crafty in the like, this is the material I have. I'm going to stitch together pieces of cloth with hot glue
No, that's
and hope
wicked
that it.
resourceful. That's what that is. Well, for what it's worth, if your son is upset with what we're talking about on the podcast and you've got to go talk it out with him, I don't think this episode will be as long as the last one. The last one, if you haven't listened to it, we did the finale of season 1 of Korra, which is a tremendous episode of the show. I don't know about the podcast. I'm not going to toot our own horn. I don't like to do that. But go listen to the episode of the podcast.
I'm not going to re-listen to it.
I'm,
I only re-listen to our
I re-listened to a few minutes just to make sure that the audio
Did you get the
works
right video
as
in and not.
expected. And right that I picked. I don't even do that sometimes. Sometimes that escapes me. Damnyapodcast.com. Hey, actually, podcast.com. Our host recently changed their setup, their appearance, I guess if you will. Way better. Thanks, podcast.com.
Oh,
But
that's good.
go listen to our last episode because the episode of Legend of Korra that we discuss is an awesome one. So go check that out. But today we're pretty much going to jump right into viewer topics, if that's all right with you, Chris. We'll go ahead and jump right into the first one. And the first one, very lighthearted one from Barry. Thanks again, Barry, for donating. I really appreciate it, buddy. He just wanted to hear our thoughts on the best Avatar quotes. And he didn't say that we couldn't use Iroh. We just all speculated that most of them would be from Iroh.
Mm.
So we're supposed to try to diversify a little bit if we
Yeah,
can.
there's one specific one from Iroh that I like to live my life by. Honestly, and I think it's something that everyone should live their life by. So I'll get my Iroh one out the way.
Oh, I think I know which
Um,
one it is. Is it
which
the
one?
is it the one where he's explaining a certain group of what am I trying to say? He's explaining something to Zuko and Zuko's like, "Why are you telling me this?" Is it that one?
No,
Oh, okay, because that would be mine.
that's okay. That's a good one too. So this is in Legend of Korra. He's talking to Korra, and Korra has a. You probably don't remember. It's probably been a while since you watched. Anyway, he
Absolutely
says to
don't.
Korra like, sometimes the best way for you to help yourself is to help others, and that's just a great quote that's very applicable to life. Like honestly, this single quote Like I remember one time I wouldn't say I don't know lost. It was just at a crossroads in my life, and then I don't know, going helping, volunteering stuff. Those things help you in a way. It's great advice. If you ever feel lost in life, try to help others. I'm sure you'll find your way.
That actually hits me way deeper than most stuff on this podcast hit me right now. The Why gotta make me feel all these feelings? Can you remind me? Is the voice of Iroh and Korra? Is it a different voice actor?
So dang it, why can't I think of Mako passed away in between book 2 and 3 of Avatar: Last Airbender, and
That's right.
and Baldwin. I'm so mad at myself. Why can't I think of his first name? His last name is Baldwin. I follow him on Twitter all the time. Um, uh, that's annoying. Um, dang it. But no, he took over for Mako, and he's kind of been Mako's understudy throughout his whole career. It's really interesting voice wise, and so he went in Legend Core. He does the voice for Iroh.
I just couldn't remember, but it felt like something changed. But
This
I'm
is
a
annoying
little
to me.
embarrassed.
I'm
I
gonna
should
look
have
it up.
known that was between 2 and 3. I'll get my Iroh quote out of the way really quick. At least it's the one I think of first. It's maybe not his best, but I love it. Is the we must or it's best to draw wisdom from many sources. And I don't remember exactly how it goes after that, but something like if you draw wisdom from only one source, it will become stale or stagnant, something akin to that. But usually it's just the first part that sticks in my memory forever and ever, and that is that it's best to draw wisdom from many sources. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's very applicable to life right
That's
now.
very applicable to life.
Um,
Um,
that's my one IRO that I'll go ahead and get out of the way. Obviously, everything that comes out of the man's mouth is gold, but I'll try not to bring up any more of his stuff.
Greg Baldwin, that's his name.
Greg Baldwin, got it. Um, my personal next thoughts would be to jump to sort of the comedy, and I know that's just me personally. But like when in the desert, I don't know if it's the library episode or
Okay.
the desert episode, but I think it's the library episode when they're flying and Toss like there it is what somebody will say when they spot it.
So good. Tom, yeah, so good. Comedy wise, to me, this is just like wordplay genius. King Boomy that let us leave comment. Just those two words, let us leave. Uh, I crack up every time at the subtlety of that.
um, not It's not comedy so much as it is really stupid. But a lot of times, if there's an awkward pause after something, or talking to my wife or whatever, most people don't get it. You would get it. My wife gets it. But if there's an awkward pause, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I just remembered the rest of the song," and died. It
It's
doesn't
fun.
apply very often, but I love doing it. So that's up there for me.
Um, Gosh, I wish I had prepared this. I should have game more prepared because there's so
No,
many
no, it's
great
better
Avatar
to
quotes.
this is you get the more like organic responses this way.
Yeah, that's true.
What's Aang's?
Um,
Look to
yeah,
Aang.
yeah, I have to go by character. Aang's my favorite quote for him probably comes when he's talking to Katara, and she's with Zuko, not in that way, guys. She's and she's considering going to go kill the man who killed her father, and all the things that Aang says about like the specific line, he's trying to get her to forgive the murderer of her mother. He says to her, oh no, Zuko says, you want her to do nothing. He says, no, Zuko, it's easy to do nothing. It's hard to forgive. And that's such a great line. And Katara, at the end of it, she came to her own, not to forgive him because that's realistic that she wasn't be able to do that. Um, but she didn't do nothing though, which is, at least I don't think of it as doing nothing. If it is doing nothing, then it's the most nothing has ever done.
Well, if it really is doing nothing, then you're probably not actually forgiveness, like pursuing forgiveness, right? That's got to be some kind of mental exercise involved. There's very much something, even if the outward appearance may not
Yeah.
demonstrate it. I'm not going to try to top that quote. That's amazing. I was trying to think of like, what does Aang say? I can't. What do I come up with that's better than that? I got nothing on Aang. That's beautiful. Oh, jumped ahead for some reason. um,
Um, and then let's see. So for Katara, my favorite line of hers, favorite quote.
Painted Lady.
Uh, yeah, but I mean that's also my favorite moment. I wonder if there's anything where just the dialogue itself
That's
is
true.
just
The
really.
Painted Lady doesn't make sense without the episode as much, maybe.
I'm trying to think of what just line of dialogue Katara has that I just absolutely love. That oftentimes my favorite quotes are inspirational.
You know what? I'm still just mostly because I can't think of anything else off the top of my head that applies, but I will stick with the Painted Lady quote. I'm not just going to stand by what I'm going to
Yeah, I would
ruin it.
never ever turn my back on people who need me.
People, yeah, so, it makes more sense within the
Even
episode, but
that,
in
even
general,
that,
it's.
even just those lines without her kind of yelling at Asaka, without the context behind everything. That line itself it's a really good line. It says so much about the character.
It kind of fits in the Iroh quote from earlier, too. Helping yourself by
Yeah.
helping others, and it kind of works for them in that regard as well. So we'll stick, yeah. I can't, and also I just can't think of anything else very sort of insightful. It sounds bad. The Qatar, say something useful.
Yeah. Um, I haven't given one for Toph yet.
She
Favorite
has so
Toph.
many good. She
Thing
has
is,
the just
yeah, she had her. Yeah, I won't lean on her for inspiration with her quotes. Um,
not at all. Although when in whatever air temple when Zuko comes to find them to train firebending, and she has the comment about it's either I think you guys are the ones that are blind or something like that, and it's really there
yeah,
again. That's kind of an in the moment quote, maybe more so than a good standalone quote, but just a really deep, tough moment.
yeah. Yeah, my favorite top quotes are probably more comedic, like the one you mentioned.
That's my favorite. I
that's
love that.
that's great writing. That's my
It's
favorite
what
top quote.
someone
Yeah.
will say when they spot it.
uh, let's see here. Favorite soccer quote. It's
I
I
know
think my
my
favorite soccer quote is also in the library episode where they're choosing where they're gonna go next in top. This is such a dumb quote. It's not dumb. It's dumb. That's my favorite soccer quote for now. If I could think on it more. Anyway, Toph was like they're trying to figure out where they're gonna go next because they really have no. They're just kind of going on vacation. And Toph says, "When do I get to choose where we go next?" And then he's like, "You got to work here a little bit longer to get vacation." And I love that quote because I just started entering the workforce like right around that time, and I understood the concept of it. It's a quote that goes probably completely over kids' heads.
uh two things I'm thinking of now. What about Toph's conversation with Iroh? Doesn't produce any memorable quotes really from Toph, but at the end she has parting words, and I don't remember what they are, but she has like really nice parting words about like, hey, let him know that you need him too, and not just vice versa when she's talking to Iroh as she leaves. I always like that one. I'm
Yeah,
trying
that
to
one's
searching for anything insightful from Toph, and it's kind of hard. Sokka, I don't know about favorite. I can think of least favorite, and that's that I do not like. I think it's very overrated. His little slam poetry session in front of the ladies. I've always
good.
thought that was kind of dumb. I know I'm probably in the minority. That's fine. Favorite Sokka quote. There's plenty of comedy to choose from. Goodness. I don't know about individual quotes. They're gonna kind of go into moments like when he's high on the cactus juice, when he's high because he's sick, when he's Sokka, would you come down to Earth once in a while?
Yeah.
Or would
Sokka's definitely the Shaggy of the of
yeah,
the
that
group.
fits beautifully. Even thinking of another tough one because I was thinking about Sokka, but when she's like, "All right, it's 3-on-3," and he's like, "What? I can fight." It's all right, 3-on-3 plus Sokka.
Plus Sokka. Oh gosh, that's a good quote too from Toph.
Can we do
Because
boomerang
it
for
hits
Sokka? Can we
it
just
hits
cheat and do
Sokka
boomerang?
so low, and it's a great misdirection. Yeah,
The timing
that's a
is really
great quote.
good on her quote too. For Sokka, I'll just settle for boomerang because he just says it twice. It's back to back. There's no words in between it. I don't think he throws it. He's like boomerang, and then it hits him in the head and actually comes back. Sparky Sparky Boom Man in the head, and then it comes back. It's like boomerang. So it's the same word, but inflection. It's powerful. That's just all I can think of right now. Also,
Uh, Real quick, a very subtle, probably underrated Iro quote. I just love the delivery by Greg Baldwin because I know his name. I remember his name. Didn't have to look it up. Um, at the end of they're talking when he's with the White Lotus and they're kind of doing their plan with Team Avatar. At the end there, before they leave, he says, "Destiny is on our side. I know it." Like it's a for some reason that line delivery is just really good.
I always like to interpret that kind of thing as not really a believer in destiny, so to speak. Myself, is that's Iroh like demonstrating control over his destiny, right? It's not the way that like a
Mhm.
Zuko season one would say it. It's more of a I know it because I like it's gonna be by my own doing, and at least that's how it hits me. So yeah, I like that one. I can't help myself. I gotta throw comedy for Myro in season one when Zuko fights Xiao, and then on their way out, he comments on Xiao being disrespectful or disgraceful, and Zuko being more honorable than him. And thanks for the tea; it was delicious. And they're walking out, and Zuko's like, "Did you mean that?" And he's like, "Of course, I love tea, or I
Yeah,
love whatever that kind of tea,
I think yeah, Jasmine T maybe.
jasmine tea." And Zuko, I think, if I recall correctly, I think there's even like a real genuine looking smile from Zuko. Even ponytail Zuko. He wasn't supposed to smile back then, but he does.
He weirdly does. There's a couple of things that's kind of out of character for early Zuko. Like this one point where in the pirate episode, which I don't love that episode, where the pirate ships get stolen by somebody, and he points at them and just laughs like ha, and it's weird because that Zuko doesn't like
You see
laugh
your own ship
much.
has set sail. Damn it, that's another
Yeah.
Iroh one.
Oh, that's good. Uncle, we don't have time for your proverbs. No, your ship is.
There again, in context of
Maybe
the
it should be a
episode,
proverb.
in the context of the episode, just Zuko, the quote from Zuko saying, "Uncle, we don't have time for your proverbs," just because of the irony. But I know that's not a good answer. What does Zuko say that's insightful and deep?
Oh, I got a couple for Zuko.
Oh,
Well,
who am I skipping? Who did we skip past? Or did I interrupt you?
no, we're pretty much on Zuko. I think.
I think we
This isn't.
we didn't come up with a good, satisfying answer for Sokka. I think is the what's hanging up on our heads. But I don't really have anything for Sokka that's not just kind of basic pun play.
I mean, there's some great character moments, but a line of dialogue, a quote. I can't really think anything beyond comedic ones.
I wish I could think of something from the episode where he trains with Piandao because I love that episode, and I know there's got to be
That's
something in there
no,
that
that's a good one.
he
When Piandao is saying like, "Oh, I'm sure you're like the best fighter in your village," and stuff, and he's like, he humbles himself. He's like, um, I am. I don't feel worthy. It's pretty much things like that. There's a good quote in there. I can't say it
something at least that's serious and
exactly.
very meaningful in a character development in a human way. So we'll give it to whatever that moment is. That's just such a good Sokka episode. Any excuse to bring it up. Okay, my
Yeah.
apologies for derailing, but Zuko, if you got something.
Okay. I have a couple for Zuko because I think they're great. Ah, man. So the one I'm gonna go with that's my favorite Zuko quote because it's so applicable to me as a citizen of the United States of America, growing up in public school. Zuko, he's confronting his father. He's saying like, we were taught growing up that the Fire Nation was the greatest uh, country in the world, and the war was our way of sharing our greatness with the world. Like, what an incredible lie that was. Um, and I feel like this is a quote that hits me because you do grow up thinking like you could say number one, like everybody sucks except for us. I mean, we don't. I don't think that, um, but you have in this head this false this this unearned exceptionalism, right? That United States is the greatest country. Like I was only until recently, I think for myself that I stopped thinking that way. Recently, as in like in the past oh gosh,
Is it fair to say that like college at least kind of
no,
turns that
it wasn't
switch
even
on in your
college.
head?
Honestly, it was. I remember having this mindset for a while. Like honestly, it was probably like 5 years ago, probably maybe 6 years. I won't blame Trump for that because at first I said 4 years, and in my head I'm lining up, well, what happened in the last 4 years? Um, but honestly, it was even before that thing that I started thinking about like, which sounds very juvenile for me. Right, I'm a 32-year-old person,
It's
and
not an
just in the
easy topic
past
to swallow.
7 years, I'm coming to the terms that like, man, United States, we're not the best. Even though for long, I mean, I've always known about our past atrocities and everything, and I've fully, well, not fully, but I try to educate myself much about that. But really, what I was thinking about, what makes America great was like our diversity, our um, our ideals and things like that, our democracy, our freedom. But then, if you really compare us to other countries, we're kind of the lowest in all. Well, not the lowest, but we're not necessarily the highest in those things. We didn't invent democracy. In fact, our democracy, I was looking at like lists of countries and how democratic ours actually is compared to others. And we're not even in the top 15 of countries, right? Because I mean, when we vote for a president, it's not really our vote. It's not a one person one vote type of deal. And other things, right? And if you look at the way the Senate is made up, every single state has two senators. Even if you're Texas compared to Hawaii, they each have two senators. Like that doesn't make any sense. For
There's no one
it
to
may
one ratio in a true
yeah,
democratic. It's a republic more than a democracy almost.
yeah.
It's
Um,
funny that to like bring Daniel Tosh into this, but we've talked about the joke before
yeah,
where he'd be like, "We're number 8," and everybody else would be like, "That's respectable."
yeah. Hey, I'm fine with top top five or top five. I'm cool with
Is
top
that what?
five.
Yeah, it's like that's
Um,
that's. But number one,
but that's one of the things that you because you have to. Those things are ingrained in you, right? You wake up every morning, you say a pledge of allegiance to the flag. You have a textbook which is completely from the perspective of your country. You fought in this war. You did this. You did this. You did this. Do you even? I don't remember learning about like controversial wars like the Vietnam War or anything like that, where we felt like, oh, hey, maybe that wasn't the maybe we weren't that exceptional in that. It wasn't until like college uh, that my teacher was like showing us, giving us assignments like, hey, you remember the opium crisis in this one country? That was directly by the United States, like purposely done by the United States to weaken whatever country that they were going into.
I think
Um,
I'm not trying to sound enlightened or anything because I was as dumb a college kid as anybody, but I did. I was I had a Spanish major and then also like I don't know what you call it, like a focus or a concentration or whatever in geography. And so college is certainly the first time I can recall even vaguely thinking, I was not a well traveled person before college. Still not a
Yeah.
well traveled, but at least college doing the right thing of like opening the doors, like, oh yeah, other countries don't all like live with this inferiority complex being over there. Like, man, I wish I was America. That's not how it works. And I think that's probably directly attributed to those specific studies, getting geography, a lot of geography centric, and studying
But
Spanish language and literature.
which so also I just want to say like calling out your country for its shortcomings, for its failures is important, right? You can't be brainwashed into just putting your blinders on and thinking like, no, we're great at everything. Like that's not how you become better, right? Like if you had a child and that child was a bully, you know, like, no, my kid is great, my kid's great. No, your child's gonna continue to grow to be a bully and be a
Don't
terrible
get me
person.
wrong, shitty parents do that all the time, but you shouldn't.
um, yeah, and blind blind loyalty to anything
Yeah.
isn't.
Well, a wise
Gotta.
man once said, "It's best to draw our wisdom from many places." Chris, I'm allowed to
That's
use the same quote twice. That's allowed. Uh,
right. Um, and then
man,
other quotes I love from Zuko is when he confronts um, confronts Ozai when he's like Ozai is like pretty much Zuko just confirms like you, my father, challenged me, a 12-year-old boy, to an Agni Kai. What you did was cruel. And then I just love when a character is talking about their past baggage and emotion and bringing it up and putting and kind of going against whoever that person was that caused that.
I knew you'd come through with some Zuko stuff that I basically ignored on accident. I do want to make sure we preserve plenty of time for the next question because it's also kind of a heavy hitter. We had two like heavy podcast episodes, and it gets worse. Now, is there any like open the floor to all other characters, just memorable stuff you want to call out?
Um, John has some great quotes,
Oh yeah,
really great quotes
just that whole
about
episode is like a
uh,
series of potentially dangerous sounding proverbs.
Monkey Atsu's quotes to Aang about the Airbender's love. That's some amazing writing there. Really amazing writing. It's like you've had sadness, you have loss, um, but the love the Airbenders have for you didn't go away, just transformed into new love. Great freaking line.
What's that guy's name? I can't even think of it. He's just the
Monkey
guru to
Monkey.
me.
Oh, I'm sorry, not Monkey Atsu. Why did I say Monkey Atsu? The Guru
But he has.
Patik.
We hear Patik.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Did you say that? And I just wasn't listening
No,
to
I
you.
didn't. I accidentally said Monkey Atsu, which I'm pretty sure someone was ready to type away in a
That right in the live
correction.
stream that I forgot to launch today. It, we didn't do anything from Cora, but that's we gotta let me get through Cora so I can participate for that one. But Barry, thanks again
That's
for the
true.
donation. Really grateful. Again, all those went to harvesters, which times of the most intense need right now. So that's excellent.
Yeah.
And thanks for submitting the topic and just your general participation. Same thing for, I'm going to call him, I ruin his name every time, so I'm just going to own it from the start. He said in one of his posts to us that we could just call him Hub because people that didn't know how to say his name would call him Hub. So I'm going to stick with that one. Thanks to you as well for submitting the topic. Very big topic, very asking us the tough questions here. I like that. And also
Oh
for
yeah.
donating to Harvesters. I had to summarize quite a bit, but this is kind of what it boiled down to was if bending existed in the real world, first of all, would racism still exist? Second of all, if presumably it does, how does that look and feel? Is it going to be about the bending? Is skin color still going to be the biggest factor? How is that going to behave? And when we say real world, I do think personally I'm going to take that to America specifically. I'm not comfortable speaking about racism outside of America. I presume it
That's fair.
parallels what happens in America personally. Dangerous presumption, maybe, but I doubt it.
Um, it's this is a short answer, but I'll dig more deep into it. But maybe things wouldn't change at all. Like
My short
bending,
answer, and I hope it leads. I hope it helps like kick you along into your thought process. But I like been thinking about this since I typed it in here, and racism usually stems from whoever not like they cause it, but there's like a power difference.
yeah,
Whatever group has power and opportunism or whatever, and that's what kind of tends to create a divide that causes racism. And so I would say that as long as there's differences between human, and the quote that Hub offered was like, if everybody was the same skin color, we'd be racist to based on eye color. And I personally fully believe that that
that's true. Like
whatever
if
division of power to not power sort of exists, and power might be the wrong word, but like general
yeah,
influence and money and opportunity, if that exists, then I think racism exists in all of these forms, whether it's skin color and bending and money and all the other things, just like it does today. It would just be one
I
more
mean,
thing.
yeah, the the cousin to racism is classism, and that would
Yeah.
always be a thing. Um, they kind of go hand in hand.
You know what? In my
But yeah,
apologies, when
the
I say racism, and I should probably have to distinguish from time to time that we say racism based on race, and there's other times where I should probably be saying discrimination as opposed to
yeah,
like a bending isn't a race necessarily. But apologies for using them interchangeably.
um, humans want to belong, and in that belonging, going to belong to groups, to tribes, like it's in our DNA, right? And it's in our best self interest to this goes back to caveman days. It's our best interest to huddle, to be in groups. And so to be in those groups, you put people in boxes and stuff. And yeah, so that, and then you form this us against them mentality. And that's going to happen no matter what. When it comes to bending, if bending was in the real world throughout all its history, I mean, I've thought about this oftentimes. Like, what if the Avatar was real? Like, what will the Avatar do if if the Avatar was in the real world and English people were going to Africa and stealing people and taking them to another place? What would the Avatar do? The Avatar would intervene in that. So I won't ask this question if the Avatar was real because that would alter history. Which to me, bending wouldn't necessarily alter history. Like I'm sure slavery would have still happened. Um, like sure you can, um, because if you think about, relative speaking, one bender versus another bender, that's an equal fight relative to me versus another person. And so the bending didn't change me having bending in one scenario versus not having bending in another scenario because that same person has that didn't change much. But
You
what's
could
constant
probably
is
you could probably make a case that bending could exacerbate it, because if you think about bending and everything having an inherent weakness, right? It could create situations in which there was sort of an inherent physical weakness to another group of humans, like a legitimate. So not those people are less valuable, but they are far less equipped to combat in any like. I don't know if I'm making any sense here, but
I mean,
there.
I just for some reason I just have trouble thinking that because I mean there are certain locations and you know slaves outnumbered the slave masters 10 to 1, 20 to 1, whatever to one, and they didn't and they rarely revolted. They did there was a lot of times that slaves did revolt. Um, but there's a power thing with that has nothing to do with the physical um, availability that they had. They could overthrow them at some point, but there's just so many barriers to that in a weird way I don't think bending would change racism
Uh,
that much in the real world.
I had fun, not fun. I enjoyed the mental exercise of thinking about if everybody in the real world or the Avatar world, if everybody was a bender as opposed to a split, and how that might
Oh, okay.
change things. Um, again in the real world or in the Avatar universe. And I think the only thing that changes is that you're like just sort of increasing the divide between types of benders or between countries. I don't. Do they call themselves
Hmm.
countries? Between kingdoms. That's what I'm looking for.
Nations,
Between
nations.
nations. Yes, thank you. I think that it would just strengthen a divide of sort of ethical or ethnic inequality between nations or ethnic discrimination between nations.
Now, there's one thing. So there's a book that I read called The Children of Blood and Bone. It's very Avatar-ish. Um, the creator of it, like she'll say like, yeah, Avatar was a huge influence on me. In this story, there's a group of people. One, they're all black, pretty much they're all black. Um, it's a fantasy story. There's a group of people called Orishans who had magical powers, different types of powers. It was earth, fire, air, death, stuff like that. And the king who was in charge started to like outlaw the use of magic, and eventually he found a way to make magic leave the world. And they would also round up magic users and kill them and stuff. Um, and that's not far fetched from what something could happen. And these are people who all have the same. Actually, they don't all have the same skin tone. The magic users are more have a darker complexion,
What was
I
the
believe.
what was the
The
name of
book's
the book?
called "The Children of Blood and Bone." There's a series of books. I think there's like 3 books total. I've only read the first one.
Um, the I think the best way to answer this question in my mind still is to like, yeah, humans will find a way to hate each other, and it'll be based on. And again, I keep calling it power, but it's whatever you want to call that combination of just kind of influence and opportunity and situation, whatever it is that divides people. We find ways to exacerbate it, and probably inherently to some extent, as you mentioned, some innate behaviors then exacerbated in bad ways. So I certainly think so. And Hub alluded to that again with his quote about eye color. I think hits the nail on the head. Of even if everything else is equal, like we'd find the next thing. But
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, to a sub question, would it be more about bending, um, or still linked to skin color or something else?
I think
It,
I think if we had bending because it's such an immense ability, I guess I think it would sort of take precedence, and I could see the racism stemming from there first. I don't think that it would eradicate anything related to class or skin color, but I could see bending being a heavier source. And I keep thinking of like X-Men in an X-Men kind of way. Um,
okay.
Racism probably still exists in the Marvel universe, but it seems logical to me that the mutant issues would sort of be on the forefront, at least publicly.
Now that would be a little different because with uh with X-Men, right? Like powers kind of popped up out of nowhere, right? With bending, it's like, well, this has been around for years. Like we're all used to bending. I feel like mutation was just like relatively started peaking in whatever past years. Like mutants started to become far more out there and far more noteworthy. But yeah, that's in my opinion, it would be probably more so about skin color. Maybe I'm biased because I'm black and I'm like, there's nothing,
What? How
nothing gonna
could you
get
be?
these people off of me.
Just thinking of things that like, it seems it's hard to imagine because magic and bending and such don't exist in life as we know it at the moment. But it just feels like if that were a sort of source of any sort of gain in wartime or personally or professionally or anything, that would become the source. But there again, if we're talking about having existed for all time, like or at least as long as skin color variations have existed, then yeah, maybe it really is a different question. Maybe it still is about skin color or just situation. Or
If I had to guess, honestly, not guess because I'm not to guess if this is a hypothetical question.
this is a guess. This
But,
whole conversation.
um, the way bending is a physical thing, right? You can kind of measure bending, right? I can make this fire this big
You
or
can
this
measure
big
it
and
in
it's hot.
anime like power levels.
Yeah, I can lift this rock from here to here. I'm this strong. Um, and I mean, in slave days, they would inspect, strip them down, inspect slaves, look at them, see how strong they are. And to me, they would kind of do the same to bending, like, oh, look at this one, he can lift a rock 10 feet. Yeah, that would really help with your farm, Jim, or whatever. Um, and then probably the non-benders would probably be, well, now I'm thinking of story elements here. Non-benders probably be, house slaves, and then they probably would have
Non-white
had more.
non-benders would have it horrible. Like, what would they? I mean,
Oh, I mean those. I mean that's those are just the poor white people, and there's plenty of when in the South when slavery was, but they still fought in the Civil War, even though the Civil War didn't help out poor white
uh,
people necessarily. But
so I think about like just the tangible gift of bending being more exacerbated than just human strength or being like magnified. It seems like it would be a bigger deal to me. But then again, as you've mentioned or as we've talked about, situation and history, a long course of history, obviously dictated a lot. So it could be off.
yeah,
I just want to go watch X-Men now. You know what? No, I just want to go watch the first two X-Men, and also First Class and Days of Future Past. Yeah,
great
yeah,
movie.
those four. Um,
Um,
Hub,
but
I hope I did.
no, I do often think about just like I have a weird mentality. Oftentimes, I'm just like, man, what if? And I probably think this too often. Like, what if superheroes are real? Like the one superhero that I wish was real, which is probably going to surprise people, because I'm a huge Batman fan. Because I mean, you see a whole freaking shrine to Batman way back there.
The Batmantle, I think, is what I'm
Yeah, the
going with.
Batmantle. But the one superhero who I wish was real, um, is Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman is like she is strong. She is brave. But the most notable thing about her is that she has a sense of truth and justice that she will seek it, um, with with nothing getting in her way. And I mean, the lasso of truth is probably the most powerful weapon. Is because it's not a weapon. It is a tool because the is truth changes everything. Like, what if if Wonder Woman existed, and I don't know how I got on this topic. Like,
I
she
don't
would
care.
bring.
I like where this is going.
If Wonder Woman existed, she would be a beacon of hope and strength, because she would demand politicians or whoever to speak the truth. The lasso of truth will compel
So let's
them.
say if she got to lasso, I don't know, maybe one politician and force him to say things that were true and accurate.
Yeah. Um, but she's such a kind of aspirational character, and she's a great combination of Superman and Batman. Right? Like she's not like she doesn't have rules. She doesn't mind killing, but also she she has this great quote, which back to quotes. One of my favorite quotes of anything ever, I think, written down, probably because it's so applicable to like police brutality and things like that. And excessive use of force is she has a quote of, I wish I could find it, because I'm gonna mess it up. Let me look for it real quick because I don't want to mess it up. Oh, I thought I'd saved it somewhere. Um, pretty sure I made a screenshot of it.
While you're looking for that, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say to Hub that I hope I only butchered the question that you asked as much as I've probably butchered your name. Sorry for both. Superhero that I think. What if a superhero could be real? You know, it's easy from like a functional standpoint to. Yeah, I like your Wonder Woman answer a ton. Or functionally speaking, just a Superman or somebody that could really like max good out of the abilities that they have. But it's hard to dispute your Wonder Woman answer in the current climate.
All right.
No offense, Batman. You're more of a local guy, and that's fine. You know what? I don't like oceans, so maybe if Aquaman existed and he was a good guy, I wouldn't be so scared of cruises.
I love Aquaman. I feel like watching Jason Momoa's Aquaman because it's really good.
Heather liked it quite a bit, which I mean, it didn't surprise me because he's an attractive human.
Okay, here's the quote. I got it.
Warm on it.
It says, "We have a saying, my people. Don't kill if you can wound. Don't wound if you can subdue. Don't subdue if you can pacify. And don't raise your hand at all until you first extended it." That quote right there.
It hits pretty deep.
Yeah.
That should be like on the locker rooms of anybody involved with a job that involves a certain amount of force. That should be like what the sign that they hit on the way out the door, like the Notre Dame sign that they tap on the way out the door.
Right. And it's that, to me, it's that extending the hand part first, right? Like we have, to me, I'll always think about issues and how to solve them. And oftentimes I feel like society is more worried about the what a person did, not the why they did it. Why does a person rob a bank, right? Well, because that person felt like they didn't have enough money. Why did they have enough money? Well, because they weren't given some opportunities. Why weren't they given these opportunities? Because of this. Okay, well, let's fix that. And that's the hand that extends out. And then that fits this long line of things. Right? You don't even get to the situation where you have to kill someone.
I think what I like about that quote best is probably that it's not an accusation, it's a solution. It's not a finger pointing or anything like that. It's a go forward.
Yeah. But don't know how we started about Wonder Woman. I just have a lot of Wonder Woman on my mind lately.
I haven't watched it yet, but I will. Probably this weekend. Okay. Probably this weekend.
I figured out that I don't think I'm gonna like this this whole release movies at home thing, because the movie theater can be distracting, but not nearly as distracting as kids or or anything like that. Like
not a dog that suddenly has to go to the bathroom or anything like that.
Yeah. The movie theater is an escape from the world around you, right? You get just engulfed in the world that you're watching in front of you. And that doesn't happen with when you're at home. You're still in that world.
Especially, I don't know. I'm one of those people that, like, I'm not upset at people for bringing their kids to the movies, but I know well enough to know that, Chris, when you go to I'm going to call it a you movie versus a your kids movie, like, your kids probably don't go with you to you movies. That's like Chris time. And so then it's a true release. Like, you don't even have to be paying attention to the kids or anything. It's just like Chris and the movie, and that's all there is. You can bring your kids to movies. Please make them be polite, if possible. I'm not going to tell people what they can't do. That's all I got on racism and bending personally. Hub, thanks again. I appreciate it. Barry, thanks again. I appreciate it. It's a cool fundraiser. I'll think of something fun for this year, but hopefully it's not locked inside by necessity. But I appreciate you guys, and we appreciate just your constant discussion with us, too. It makes it something we really enjoy and look forward to is talking to you guys about this stuff. So thank you, and thanks, Chris, for bringing up the topics idea. It's a good time for it in between seasons. In the meantime, I think that we have probably said our piece on fan topics for today. I don't know for sure that we'll jump right back into. I don't want to speak over top of both of us. We haven't discussed it yet. If we're going to jump into season 2, or if we're going to fill out a like a top and bottom 5 or whatever. A little tougher with this season being 12 episodes long, but we will discuss whether or not it's time to jump right into season 2. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Chris, nice talking to you. Nice to see you. And we will see you next time on Avatar The Last Podcasters. Don't forget to visit us on Instagram and Twitter at last_podcasters or facebook.com/lastpodcasters. No, /Avatar The Last Podcasters on Facebook. Yeah, that sounds right. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chris. And we will see you next time.